right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see from the video description, I have Jason Lyon on with me from You Are the Power, the organization that we're going to be discussing tonight and the things that they do. But before we get into Freedom Talk, let me start the recording. And, well, actually, before I even do that, let me do one other thing. Let me just format the thing so I don't have 14 files on my SD card before I start recording, because that gets a little maddening. Anyway, let me start the recording, and we shall proceed with the Freedom Talk here.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Very excited to have on Skype with me a man by the name of Jason Lyon. He is with the organization called You Are the Power. And I know when I talked about this last week, I heard about this organization. I saw a post on Twitter from Spike Cohen, and then the Good Morning Liberty podcast that I always tell you guys about discussed this Hernandez family situation, which I know we'll get into tonight. But Jason, welcome to the show. And I guess to start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the organization, and we'll go from there.
Well, first, thank you so much, John, for having me come on tonight. It's a incredible honor and a privilege. So I'm just one lucky guy who managed to find himself in the right spot in the right time, and been good friends with Spike, and we were former, I wouldn't say co-host, but we were colleagues on the same podcast platform for several years. He ran for vice president, and I just wanted to love and support him in any way that I could. He started up You Are the Power after running for vice president of the United States, and from there, the focus was, hey, we've got great ideas. We see problems in our communities that everyone else sees. How can we be a part of the solution? How can we bring people together and make a difference? And so from that baby idea, we've been able to just come in and demand respect from government officials, hold them accountable, and change the way that people are able to live their lives. And it's been an incredible year and a half, 2 years coming up here soon, of just being able to truly revolutionize the way people see each other.
Yeah, I have never, of course, I've never met Spike. I've seen some of the things he's done at city council meetings. I think I've seen some of that on, I don't remember, something about feeding the homeless or something, some kind of permits that he's saying, hey, you guys could be part of the solution, or I can go back to my people and tell them you don't want to cooperate, and we can take this a different direction. But it's all up to you folks. You're going to choose the path we go on. But he does it so eloquently. It's hard to go, this guy's a jerk, because he speaks so well.
It's so beautiful watching Spike and doing what he does, and thankfully, in my position, he gets to be my mentor, and I get to ask him all these questions whenever I go and speak. The story you were talking about, I want to fill your viewers in, if you don't mind, on that. In Columbia, South Carolina, there was a wonderful lady named Erica Brown, and she was serving on behalf of her 501c3 organization, Be Kind, Be Great. And she'd been serving for 7 years, serving the homeless of Columbia, South Carolina. And randomly, one wonderful day, the police decided to come in and say, you can't do that anymore. She said, why not? And so she was like, all right, I won't. And so we heard about this. We saw the videos being shared online. All of these things get flooded in from wonderful, amazing people just like your viewers, saying there's a problem here. Can You Are the Power help us be able to be a part of the solution? And so we did. We got involved, and we started going out there serving on Fridays down there in Columbia. And then we had a nice little rally. Some fun little tidbits. At 25 people or more, it's a nuisance unless you have a permit. So we made sure that we had 27 people there standing in front of City Hall, waving signs saying feeding people is not a crime. Let people be good people. Let people be kind. Let people be great. And so from there, we filed on in to City Hall. And they were stunned at the fact that we had so many people inside, and Spike started us off, and you put it very well, of being just very deliberate with what he's saying, being respectful with what he's saying, and saying you can be respectful too, or you can act how you have been on that side of the dais. And so from that day, incredible results have come. The mayor got his personal cell phone number. I've reached out to him. I said, hey, we've got this issue with this problem. Can you help us be a part of the solution? And I'll text him back the next week and say, hey, our problem's gone. Should I come in and thank you? And he'll be like, we'll arrange a time. They now understand that we're not here to tear down bridges. We're not here to break away people from their lives. We're here just to demand that people respect people. And at the end of the day, whether you're elected or not, you're still a person. You still wear your pants the same way everyone else does. So just show us some respect. Act as if you're on this side of the dais along the rest of us, and just be good people. And then nothing bad happens.
Yeah, it's that story, and then there was another story. They now I don't know if you guys were involved in this, but it was mind blowing, and I mean, I just feel my blood pressure raising up as soon as I talk about it. But there's a gentleman in Atlanta who they demolished his house. He was on a street instead of an avenue. They should have demolished the other house. They demolished his house, and then he gets a letter from the Atlanta city government and he's thinking, oh, it's going to be a check or an apology. No, it's a bill for several $1,000s for the demolishing. And you sit there and you go, how narcissistic do you have to be to not only do you demolish the wrong house, but then you send the person the bill? You don't want to take any responsibility for your actions.
How dare you let us do you wrong? How dare you?
I know I was baffled. It's like, you can't be serious right now. You cannot be serious. But yeah, they did. I don't know that situation has been resolved either. But they sent stuff out to wrong addresses. Several people. One woman was away on vacation and came back and found that her home had been demolished. And it makes you wonder. But
this is like the perfect description of how many government programs work. They're going to come in, ruin your life. They're going to ruin your livelihood. They're going to destroy everything you have. And they're going to go, but we need money. Can we get a little bit of that? You've been working hard these days. Can I get a little more of that from you?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do in that person's shoes? I mean, how do you, because I would be so mad. I don't know that I'd be able to rectify the situation and not like blow my top and get arrested because they're like, oh, he's being violent and he's doing this. I don't know how I could be civilized with people who treat me in that way, and then act like to do that, and then be like, oh, we did nothing wrong, and by the way, you owe us for the demolition fee.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly difficult in order to have the temperament and of course for us on the outside, with me, I'm I didn't express this earlier. I'm the national volunteer director, so I get to kind of be able to help and advise with a lot of the causes that we're working on across the country. It's easier for us to come in with this very with the temperament of, we're going to find a way to be respectful and demand respect in this. It's another thing for somebody to have their lives be upended and in that way, and be like, well, we need you to tone back on the emotions while we do the practical things, and then we will ramp up, and you can have your day in court, if you will, to have your emotions and spread those, and we're going to of course amplify your voice when that happens. But on those, we have to, I'll give you a little bit of the quick synopsis of how we function and the way that we function. We find out the problem. We figure out who the actors are. We figure out who the victims are. We then when we find out who the bad actors are, who the government entities are, who they're accountable to, we then start blasting them on social media. We share the story. Everybody resonates with it. Once, you know, we're not out here to create contention with the public. We're out here to show the public that they have contention with the government, because at the end of the day, these causes, these people weren't getting picked out. They weren't being, it wasn't somebody being racist against them. It wasn't somebody being sexist against them. It wasn't somebody being classist against them. It was the government just being inept in the way that it functions. So this literally can happen to you. It can happen to me. It can happen to anybody. So when you put this in a way that people resonate with it, then you go, all right, now let's send the emails. Now let's make the phone calls. Now my personal favorite is, let's send the fax machines, because if you think that the government is up to the 21st century and has got rid of their fax machines, no. It's a lot of fun to waste all that paper and just watch it pouring out. So we have a lot of good ways that we can start getting their attention and saying, hey, you're being put on notice. The public sees what you're doing. You have an opportunity now, before we make absolute fools out of you, to come forward, be the bigger person, and say, I have messed up. We have messed up, and we're going to work to make this right. And so from there, if they don't do it, then we send the big dogs in. We go to the city council meetings, the county council meetings, whatever meetings are necessary, and then you get the highlight clip from Spike where, you know, millions of people get to watch Spike say, you know, maybe you guys aren't the profit racketeers that you guys appear to be. Maybe you guys aren't the mafia people saying we're going to destroy your stuff, or you know, if you don't pay us for these protections, you don't want what's going to happen to you. Maybe you guys aren't that. So here's your opportunity. Let's just act with human respect once again and start doing bigger and better things. Let's fix the problems that we have, and let's not have these problems come back in the future.
Yeah, and I want to, the one thing that I really commended Spike on, from the audio after he spoke, when they played the audio from this Hernandez family thing, when Spike got on and told people, when you make phone calls, when you do this, be very careful how you word it, so they can't turn it into where they look like the victims when we're calling them out on whatever they're doing. So be very respectful, no name calling, because, and they'll turn it in and they'll make it to look like they're the victims in this whole thing. And I thought, now that is smart. That is well thought out, because, you know, if I'm making the phone calls, although if I call my rep's office or I call my senator's office, if I leave a voicemail or whatever, if I'm at the Capitol, I talk respectfully. But I never thought of it in that way. I never thought, you know, if I'm doing something on the behalf of an organization like yours, like, oh, yeah, they could pull the victim card, so I have to be very careful in the language that I use when I'm trying to get my message across.
Yes. No, we are very concerned with that, because at the end of the day, you know, we've seen in the past from other organizations with their involvement, or even some stray people that you know, see a random video of Spike or social media posts, and when those things go viral, you know, we don't have any control over who sees this, and if they have a personal experience that's similar to this, to where they become outraged and they become upset, and we of course have no responsibility over how people are going to react to this, but there's also, we're not getting involved because, you know, you put red sprinkles on somebody's cupcake when they wanted blue sprinkles. You are hurting somebody's life. You are affecting somebody in a very negative way. And so you're going to have people that want to come over the top. And at the end of the day, if I came into this radio station and I started, you know, yelling absurdities to you, you'd be like, yeah, I don't really want to deal with you. You might play some courtesy, give me some courtesy lines, but at the end of the day, you didn't listen to anything I said. So when we come out and we show up in force, and we have, you know, 1,000 people send an email, and they can see 3 emails that somebody was just nasty to them, and they say, look at these stacks of emails, and they show you the top 3, and it's those 3 nasty ones. Now it looks like we're just coming out here and just trying to destroy them. So we are just trying to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that these families, these organizations, and these individuals that we're helping serve, that they're having the best opportunity possible. And if we're not going to be giving respect to the officials, even though they're doing disrespectful things and unrespectful things, if we're not giving them respect, we're not giving them the opportunity to see what respect looks like. And so we have to be the bigger people and invite them to be bigger as a result of it.
So, I guess you don't have to go into great detail, but let's say you decide, let's say there's something, okay, with the gentleman in Atlanta that got his house demolished and you guys got in on this. How would you lay out how you would tell somebody or guide someone into writing up an email on contacting these aldermen and this mayor? Like, how would you because I think a lot of people can be respectful, but sometimes it's how you word it that grabs their attention and maybe tugs the heartstrings a little bit or gets them thinking. So how would you lay out for somebody to word their emails to where it gets attention, but it's also respectful?
So I think from my experiences, whenever I'm talking to somebody, whenever I'm trying to get somebody involved to be an activist, an advocate, or just somebody to be on my side, they don't care really what you know. They care why you care. And so for me, when I'm writing those letters, when I'm writing a letter and, could you imagine coming home and finding out that you don't have a home, wondering where your kids are going to sleep that night, what they're going through? What are you put the reader into the shoes of the person that's going through this situation. Start off with why they should care, and then say, here's what has actually unfolded since then. So now that they know that you care, and now that you got them caring about what's happening in that situation, now you explain what's happened as in the follow-up. And then the most important thing is you want to have a very clear call to action for them, right? Stop fining people for destroying their property. That's unethical, that's immoral, that's destructive. We don't steal people's stuff, we don't take their stuff, we don't destroy their stuff and then take more from them. Let's figure out a way that we can help reunite this family back into a lifestyle. What can we do? What are simple things? And of course, from our organization, we don't want the government to get involved with it, because we all know the government only breaks, it doesn't make. And so, the only way that they can give to somebody is by taking from somebody else. And so we want to be able to find community answers. And so we work within our network to find different people that have opportunities. I was talking about Erica with Be Kind and Be Great a little while ago. I'm actually meeting up with her here soon. And she was fortunate enough, because of the publicity that she's received, the positive publicity that she's received, that she has property that is now available for her to create a community center. And so that's one of her plans. And so we're able to go outside of the bounds of government, because they are largely the problem, and we're able to help facilitate those solutions by nothing more than the people that are within the community. These are the people that face the problems day to day, and these are the people that care about the solutions at the end of the day. And so as long as you can keep working within the people around you, you'll be able to achieve a lot more successfully, and you're taking less things from other people.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for anybody that maybe wants to start up an organization like this, or a political grassroots movement, is to surround yourself with people who can, you want that fire in the belly, because you have an agenda. You have a message that you want to get out, you have things you want to get done. But at the end of the day, like we both stated here, if you can't be respectful, I mean, they're going to tune you out. And you're not welcome back in their office. They don't want to talk to you on the phone. They ignore your emails. It's a number of things. But it is an important thing to keep in mind. I know we've had, in Kansas City, there were people just feeding homeless, and the cops showed up. The health department's like, oh, dumped all the food out. They did it again a couple weeks later, but everybody was armed. And then the situation changed, because they're like, uh-oh. Like, there were people there to protect the workers. And then in St. Louis, I think there's a pastor, I think his last name is Rice. he's big on feeding the homeless and constantly being shut down because you don't have a permit. Or, you know, and it's one of those things that really irks me, because there are people who think that if you have a permit or a license, that suddenly that makes you a better person, or you're not gonna poison people because you didn't properly cook the food. It drives me insane. But there's numerous examples of this. You know, even lemonade stands, stupid. You know, kids with a lemonade. Oh, it didn't have a. You know, at some point, it's like, when does everybody recognize that, hey, when it comes to licensure, permits, everything, we've gone way too far. We need to, instead of doing it, oh, well, we'll change it up. How about we just back it off altogether, you know? Somebody starts a business. Why do we make them jump through these fiery hoops? Or because if you left it, let's say this is the way I feel about it. If the government just said, we're gonna add a fifth of a cent sales tax on everything, and then we're gonna feed the homeless with that, you know that money's gonna be squandered. Nobody's gonna eat. It's gonna be nasty food. If you leave it to the public and they're putting their money together, well, it's their money, so they're gonna spend it better than somebody who's taking your money, and then they're paying their friends to do this, and the outcomes are just completely different.
Yes.
And it would be nice for more people to recognize that.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things, like, when I know I'm harping on her a little bit. Well, let's go over to Gastonia, North Carolina. We had Pastor Moses of Faith, Hope, and Love. He had been serving for many years, and he actually opened up his church doors for the homeless. And so he had 40, 50 people living on the church property. They were living there. They had community. We brought in trailers. We were able to help them bring in trailers to be able to have a place of community, of education, to where they can learn life skills, so that they can go back and restore their livelihoods and get back to living amongst the public and be upstanding citizens by, you know, the government's eyes. And, you know, him doing all of those things, he had to be a steward of the money that was coming in. There was no... He gets to write the winning lottery ticket and ask the Federal Reserve to print him off more money. He had to be a good steward. He had to be able to talk with people of the community for them to offer up their money to him, so that he could continue doing good for the people of his community. And people were willing to do that. He knew that if he was a bad steward of it, that money would dry up. He knew that if he took too much of it, that people wouldn't want to pay him anymore. He knew that there was a lot of complexities to this, and it wasn't a simple thing of being able to go out and say, well, I need more money, so therefore next year you're going to all pay me a little bit more. When people have to have that opportunity to fail, it also means that they're given an opportunity to succeed. And when you take away the opportunity to fail, there really isn't a demand for the success. And that's why the government, with all of these programs, there isn't a demand for them to be successful. It's just a demand for them to act like they're going to try to be better next time. And turns out the only way for them to justify being better next time is to take more money from you, which is, you know, that fifth of a cent that you're talking about.
So somebody here in the live chat wants to know, does the organization ever dabble in state policy or lawmaking, or is that something you guys don't get into much?
So for us, we are primarily a 501c3. We do have a 501c4 as well, but we primarily focus on the 501c3 aspect of this. But we like to try to keep things down to the local level. So we're talking city and county council levels. We have had to dabble a little bit, moving up to some state level positions. But for the most part, we're looking to just get to the niche nitty gritty and down to the community, to the street level, even to be able to help empower people so that they can be community leaders, so that they can take these things the way that they need to.
And you know, and there again, I like to hear that. I like because we, you know, the Missouri Freedom Initiative, that's a grassroots organization that I talked to you about before the show, and some others. They do a lot of work at state level, but then a lot of those folks are very active in their local communities as far as, you know, laws or just the personnel, the mayor, the alderman, chiefs of police, whatever. they're also very active in keeping up to date and keeping others up to date about what's going on in their local area. So that it's more of a the group as a whole focuses a lot on state issues. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, but that that organization is responsible. At the end of the day, they're responsible for that bill because they got thousands of phone calls to the legislature, which never happens, and it made them take notice. But they really charged in, and so basically the Second Amendment Preservation Act, Jason, in Missouri says it states that law enforcement in this state will not enforce unconstitutional federal gun laws if a law enforcement officer does so. I believe it is, and I can't believe I might get this wrong. It's either $25,000 or $50,000 fine. So, yeah.
Get me all happy.
And then, of course, the federal government has been challenging it. I believe it's going to get to the Supreme Court because lower court said there's nothing wrong with it, and then another court said, "Oh, yep, that's unconstitutional," which is odd. And then there was a stay on the decision. The stay got removed, and now we're waiting for the Supreme Court to hear it. We feel as we've got the law, the Constitution on our side. Oh, it's $50,000. That we're hoping the Supreme Court should say there's nothing inherently wrong with this legislation. But so they do that, but then they're working school bond issues and a lot of local stuff too. So they're two-tiered, and it's fun to watch. I've gone up with the group a few times, and the last time I went, I believe there was 24 of us, and they're not used to seeing 24 people who are not lobbyists or anything like that all crowd. Like some of us are in the office and standing outside saying, hey, here's a bill that we'd really like to kill or get done. This has a lot of interest. And then they can get, we tried to get gold and silver done last year. Somebody was in either the, I believe it was, I can't remember if it was the majority floor leader's office or Speaker of the House. The light on the phone constantly blinked. They just left it. They never answered it. It was just person after person saying, we want to see this get done today. Oh. It didn't end up getting done, but there was a heck of a push.
No, that's incredible.
The local stuff is amazing, too. All right, I have to ask about this because this is the incident that brought your organization to my attention and a lot of others. So this Hernandez family thing in Georgia, lay this out for us, and because, folks, I want you to hear this, because this is one of those big ticket items that put these people on the map for me, but this is the kind of things they're getting involved with. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so I'm sure many of your viewers are like us, and we're fathers and mothers and aunts, uncles. We've got relatives, and so one of the worst things that you can go through is having a newborn or a 3-month-old having something go wrong with them medically. And in this case, Matt and Tucky Hernandez, they had their 3-month-old daughter, Emma. She had swelling in her leg. And so they did what any loving parent would do, and they took her to the hospital. What was, a problem of my kid has an injury turns into every parent's nightmare. DFACS, which is the CPS for Georgia, was called in, took the kids away, and ultimately what has come from all of this is both Matt and Tucky have been charged with criminal charges for neglect and abuse. This is just the very skimming highlight of it all. What we have seen from this is that Emma, based off of the medical records that have been released, it looks like Emma has a medical condition. She's been proven to have rickets early on, but looking at things such as osteogenesis imperfecta or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, There's other medical conditions that would cause some deformities of the bones. She had cupping of the ribs. She had fractures in her legs of very brittle bones. There was a lot of these things that when you look at it, the common physician would say, yeah, there's probably a medical underlying condition here. We should probably do some checks. We should probably do some investigating on this before we just determine that, one, we need to apply criminal charges, and two, that we need to start separating people from their families. Um, when the mother, Tucky, she was the first one to be arrested and charged with criminal charges. Part of her bond agreement, which is another nightmare of anyone who is married, part of her bond agreement was that she was no longer allowed to be in contact not only with her children, but also with her husband. So since July, a month after this all started going down, she no longer was able to be with her husband, to work through this all. Since then, Matt has been arrested as well, and he's been charged. And so now they're both separated. They both have to have a different family court attorney as well as a criminal court attorney. So things are very costly for them. We are seeing just grotesque things happening from DFACS workers. I could summarize it and say that there's been lying, there's been slander, and all these other things. It's a terrible situation, and it's all just stems from a government entity, DFACS, who has a history of taking children from families with unfounded cases, with a history of losing children through the system, taking baby Emma and young Arya away from their parents without any rhyme or reason, while accusing them of erroneous and meritless crimes. It's just literally the scariest thing ever. And what we have seen unfold from that, if that's not bad enough, what we've seen from that was they did get moved over to the aunt and uncle. The children moved over to them and were staying with them for a short period of time. Emma continued to develop new symptoms, so the aunt and uncle took them into the hospital per DFACS request, and then the children were taken from them because clearly they were allowing Tucky to come in and abuse her child in their home, is one of the accusations. Just out here, just making up things as they see fit. This all falls under the head of DFACS, Candace Brochi, who has federal hearings done about her program at DFACS and how it's been handled since she came into power. Just grotesque step and just misstep, and I wouldn't even say a miscommunication between the different teams and government entities here, but just a lack of communication. Nobody's on the same page, no accountability, no responsibility. And at the end of the day, like, we're sitting here and watching a family be fractured and broken apart and being beaten bit by bit. And we have to, of course, come out here and talk about these things. It's gut-wrenching for me. As a loving father, and we have to be able to right the wrongs that the government is doing and help this family through these times.
Yeah, one of the things that I heard on this is I guess the father was able to go see the daughters. The oldest daughter went behind the dad because she was scared.
Yes.
She knew he was going to leave.
Yes.
And the social worker smiles at her and calls her racist. Now, come on. I mean,
yes, a 4-year-old is definitely clearly just, that's the first thing you would go to. A 4-year-olds are always racist. And for anyone who has not seen a picture of them, you guys are all encouraged, of course, go to, if you don't mind me plugging it, youarethepower.net/Hernandez. And you can see the story there. And you can see a picture. Tucky Hernandez is Thai. The children are half Thai, half white. Matt Hernandez is a white guy, despite it being a Hernandez last name. Some people may have thought, Latino. So these kids aren't white kids either. So it's kind of weird that you would have a social worker just be like, oh, me being a stranger coming in to take them away from their parents. Clearly, the logical jump here is she's just a racist.
You know, and for anybody, if you look, everybody look into this, the video description, you will see a link to youarethepower.net. It's in the video description. Yeah, I want everybody to go over there and find out more about this organization. Because like I said, I was blown away from that story. And so it wasn't just that. That
No.
was the icing on the cake. But then they're like, well, Spike Cohen, kind of spearheaded this whole thing. And then I come on and I see the first heading about, you are the power is, we look for people being disrespected by government, and then we want to go in, and we all want respect. And I
Yes.
thought that's when I see, we're a liberty-loving organization, because sometimes you get an organization that can do some good things, but there's a left or right paradigm to the organization, and so they kind of pick and choose a little bit what follows their political ideologies a little more. And this is just a more libertarian base, like, hey, someone's freedom's being assaulted. Let's go right this wrong. I appreciate that more because you're just doing it without a filter on. You're not sticking your political ideal, your political thinking ahead of the issue. You're just saying this is wrong. Let's see if we can fix it.
I want to do one quick plug for the Hernandez family real quick, and then I'll touch on that real quick if you don't mind. One other thing that really brought a lot of credibility for this story is the Williams family. The Williams, Jennifer and Jonathan, they are two of the most incredible people I've ever been in an encounter with. Jennifer and Jonathan is a pharmacist. Jennifer is just a superwoman. They were foster care parents for 13, 14 years in Georgia. And they'd fostered over 30 children, and they provided respite care for the girls. And it's because of their actions. It's because of them seeing these girls and noticing, having 30 kids come through their home, they understood that Emma and Aria didn't have the signs of being a neglected child, didn't have the signs of being abused. They were loving and happy and flamboyant and joyous and just filled with that pure energy that you get when you have a kid that's been well cared for and taken care of. And Jennifer and Jonathan realized that. They did some vetting, they did some digging, they found out the story behind Taki and Matt, and they jumped to action, and they were the power for Matt and Taki. And from that, Jennifer and Jonathan and the rest of the team there, they have all been going out there, going onto social media, going on to other shows and podcasts. And if you want somebody who has real inside scoop and the real deep level understanding of that, I would love to be able to get anyone in touch with Jennifer. She's not doing this for the fame, but she does it so well. But to your point about our organization, the one of the most incredible things, like I said, this organization is less than really 2 years old, and we aren't just libertarians. We push liberty forward. There's no way you can look around that. We have Republicans on board. We have libertarians on board. We have even, I'll even mention the anarchists on board. We have Democrats on board. We have everybody across the whole political spectrum, because at the end of the day, like I said, we're the only thing that we push is a liberty solution. We don't come out here and look for the liberty problems. There's plenty of problems in the world that haven't been labeled liberty yet, but we have the liberty solutions, and we're more than happy to work within our network to achieve those things. And so as long as we don't let our philosophy stand in the way of our principles and our values and our passions, we can work with anyone on any specific issue to work for the common goals. And at the end of the day, I think when people are respected, people are most free. And when people are most free, that's when they can achieve the most. And so that's been our goal since the beginning. And it's been a recipe for success.
Yeah, I would definitely like to talk to Jennifer. If you could link us up somehow, I would love to have her on and go into depth, because people got to understand, it's hard to find anybody who hasn't heard of a case where, like in Missouri, it's DFS, Division of Family Services, where there's not some real stupid going on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my sister had a best friend in high school. Clearly, her dad was beating her. I mean, she didn't want to undress in the locker room at school because she had bruises all over her back. Someone calls DFS, they go in, they don't find anything wrong. And everybody's like, so you have that end of the spectrum, and then you have the Hernandez end of the spectrum where nothing's
Yes.
going on, and you get these people. To me, it's just people on a power trip who want to go in, and it's like they want to seem like they're relevant and that they're serving a purpose. So they go way past what's logical and moral to justify their position.
Yeah, without any merit or reason for what they're doing. I think you're absolutely right. When specifically on the case with the Hernandez family, based off of everything that I've seen and witnessed and been a part of, it feels more like DFAX is trying to cover their tracks and would rather destroy a family and all the lives involved than to admit any kind of accountability. And so that's why, our push has been to have open conversations, have conversations with Governor Kemp, have conversations with the different senators, with the different House reps, with, both at the federal and at the state level, contacting the entire chain from DFAX, from the head at Candace Brochi down to the case manager. We want to have these conversations with everybody because at the end of the day, their intended purposes, their stated purposes of providing family and child services, that doesn't mean ripping people apart without merit. And this is certainly where we're at in this case.
Right. I saw something. Scott Horton had posted something on, I'm old, so I call it Twitter. I know it's X, but I call it Twitter. But he posted something about this CIA guy was being interviewed. And it just said, he's kind of admitting, oh, yeah, we bring drugs in, we sell them, because it was for good, right? So I'm like,
it's always for good.
I have to find this audio clip because I want to play this on next week's show. I want to dive into this. So I found the video on YouTube. I had to go way through the video. But the guy basically said, this is the way he looked at it, and I'm tying it to this kind of, okay? He says, if I see 100 Americans could die, or I could bring a bunch of drugs in and flood a poor neighborhood, I'm going to save the 100 Americans. That's just how I am. That kind of ties to the mentality that some people have, especially when they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. It's
yes.
Like, I can be the bigger person and claim fault and say it should have never gone this far, or I can destroy a family. You know what? I'd rather look like the awesome person that everybody thinks I am, so I'll just let this family be torn apart. And then they go to bed and they sleep at night, which is beyond belief.
And what's crazy is like what we find out in a lot of these government structures is when you get caught and you actually have accountability be handed to you, what it looks like when you're a caseworker and you're being held accountable, it means you get a promotion. We don't know how it works in government, but we know that you will fail up every time. And so if you just have the biggest failures at the top, then nothing matters at the bottom. It feels like in many cases. But on a serious note, it is one of those things where just accountability isn't shared there because these positions are so closely guarded and you have the system understanding we have to protect the system. If people lose faith in the system, then what kind of anarchy will they live in? And it's just like maybe they might live a better life, because when you talked about the CIA agent, they feel like they have this dichotomy of I have this solution or I have this solution, but they forget that there's a whole entire spectrum of opportunity of people coming together and bringing new ideas, of finding ways of actually saving those 100 people, not bringing in new problems into these communities. There's a way that you can work around a lot of things, and it just takes having an extra mind, an extra set of eyes there. And just imagine if you could bring in more people, what kind of opportunities we would have. And so that's why, at the end of the day, like we here at You Are the Power, we believe in the community solutions, and we're going to just ignore the monopoly of the state on those things, and we're going to be able to find those solutions, bring those forward. And then hopefully one day, the state will, or the city government or the county government will realize, hey, why don't we start trying to do those things too? Yeah, compete with us. That's fine. don't steal our money to do it. But if you want to compete with us, we're happy to have these kinds of competitions, because at the end of the day, we know we're still going to beat you out, because people love us, respect us, and trust us.
Yeah, no, you make a good point because, I always harken back to Forest Park, which is in the St. Louis area. A great number of people donated to make improvements to that park. And so they went through and they did it. And I was listening to a radio show up there, and somebody called in and they said, yeah, here's an example. If we would have given the money to the city of St. Louis for the improvements, it would have taken way longer, it would have been more expensive, and it wouldn't look near as good as it does. And I always kind of think to myself that they just don't want people to think that they're irrelevant, that they're not needed. That's like their biggest fear, that a bunch of people, average Joe Blows in a community can pull their money together and do something without a middleman called government or some bureaucrat sticking their hand out in the middle wanting a piece of the pie. To me, that's their greatest fear, to be found that they are unneeded or unnecessary, and that people can make their own decisions and live their lives, and not everybody's out to screw somebody else over and steal from them or take their stuff.
I think one of the funnest solutions that I've given to some city council members and government officials, to watch them swallow these pills, is to tell them we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on most things. But as long as people aren't breaking laws, people should be able to be free to do what it is that they need to for their own solutions and for the solutions of others. If people want to provide within a park, a public park, and the entire community, if 99% of the community says we should build a tree house in this park and that's going to make us all happy and joyous and it's going to make our lives more fulfilling, the laws that would prohibit 99% of the population from being able to do something on that public park aren't really justified. But if they're not violating any laws, there's no reason why the government should be getting involved and stopping them from doing such things. And we had this with plenty of other examples, like actual real examples in these discussions, and watching them having to grapple with, if I can't stop them from doing something just because I don't like it, what else have I been doing this with? How else have I been infringing upon others? And we've actually seen some small steps be changed in the way that these people address things in the future. So while we're working within these government officials and we're talking with them and we're dealing with them and we're trying to build relationships and build respect with one another, we're planting those seeds, and hopefully from that we're going to have a pretty beautiful flourishing forest of trees of liberty all throughout the country, where people can be free to live out their days and help and thrive with one another. And so it's just, we have to be creative in the ways that we can plant those seeds and have these things grow. But at the end of the day, it's just get out there,
Yeah, it seems like, I guess your best bet at the end of the day is find, there are things across political aisles that people can agree on. Like marijuana seems to be the new issue, where both sides of the aisle are coming together and going, I don't know why we did this for so long. Let's just legalize it and be done. I think if people try hard enough, they can find common ground with people who may not even be moderate on either side of the political aisle, but can agree that it is in the best interest of the people for the government to get just out of the way. And I sit and sometimes I daydream and I think, if I was going to write a draft for a bill here in the state of Missouri, what would it be? And talking to someone the other day, because I'm pro-life, and I thought, what? And I know somebody else had interest in doing this too, and maybe we just work together. But I thought, what a great bill to come in and start removing things out of the adoption process, so that a lot of people want to adopt a kid but can't spend $35,000, $45,000, $50,000. let's start removing some government out of this process. And so if we're going to be pro-life, great. And if we're going to tell mothers that don't want the baby, you have to keep it, but you can't put it up for adoption, okay, then we make the adoption process cheaper and easier, and we find homes for these babies where they'll be loved. And it's just those incremental steps. I think you could get a lot of people on board. People who are pro-choice, people who are pro-life. This is something that we can say, here's a thing that we can work on together.
Yes.
So if we're gonna have, because we already have that bill in Missouri, and then start working on the adoption side. So you're easing up the regulations and all the fees. I mean, I know a lot of people who can't have kids that want to adopt, but when they look at the fees, they're like, there's just no way possible.
Yeah.
We'll never afford this.
So we love to work and partner with, networks and communities and organizations, 501s, other 501c3s, C4s, and what have you. And it's with the understanding that we're not going to have that perfect alignment. Never. We don't have a perfect alignment other than our stated principles. That's the only thing that we have alignment on. I mean, we have people that have different views outside of those, and that's completely fine. Our goal is to find the common goals. Our goal is to find those common grounds and to be able to work with people, and that's it. If there was a communist group out there that was like, we are staunchly, all these things are 100% in absolute opposition to us, but there's this one thing that we're willing to work with you guys on, I'm there every day of the week. Let's work on this one issue, because I know at the end of the day, I've got my principles and they've got theirs, and that's fine. But if we can make the world a better place by fixing that one problem, then the world is a better place. And so for us, we never let those things get in our way. We always want to make sure that no matter what we do, whether it's when it comes to a specific cause, right? If we go and we're helping out with a family, and the family says, we have these 10 things that we want to get taken care of, and these 3 things are in alignment with us, and those other 7 things aren't, hey guys, sorry, we can't help you with those 7 things, but those 3 things, more than happy to help you with. And sometimes it'll spur up a conversation. Why not those other 7? We can have those conversations. Here's why our philosophy, our principles, and everything else won't allow us to work on that way. That makes sense. Okay, understood. Or, well, I disagree with you, but I'm still willing to work with you guys on those 3. Or even sometimes it's, all right, if you don't work on us with those 7, then you don't want to work with us. Our goal is to be here and to support people and to be able to reach for their common goals where we have those common goals. And so it gets interesting, it gets fun, it gets exciting, and I'm sure that we're going to have some times where tempers are going to get tested, and that's okay, because nobody is getting involved with any of this stuff. I don't think any of your viewers, I don't think you or myself are here because we lack passion. We all have that passion, that drive, and that desire to see something different. And so, butting heads is a normal thing, and it's okay, but we're here, and it's those common things that we can really make a huge impact on. And I wish that people would more focus on those agreements rather than what the media has done to us and made us focus on those divisions,
Yeah. Do you have a little more time to stick around, Jason, or do you need?
Absolutely.
Okay, because in about a little over 3 minutes, I've got to cut for one radio station, and then I can proceed from there.
Okay.
So let me ask you this: with, like I said, a little under 3.5 minutes left. Do you kind of have people in a lot of states? Let's say somebody in Missouri wanted to help. How would they contact or try to get involved with the organization to help out, maybe with an issue in their state?
So there's a couple things you could do. First, you can always go to youarethepower.net/membership, or youarethepower.net/member. You can sign up to be a member. Membership is as low as free. You can get onto, if you're on Facebook, you could join the Facebook group where we have an internal members only Facebook group. You can bring your issues there. You can email me directly at jason@youarethepower.net. You can also send causes to the council at youarethepower.net. The council is the team that goes through and vets all of these causes, make sure that they're in alignment, and does the vetting for those. And then they will distribute it out to the regional organizers. So the regional organizer for Missouri specifically is Brandon Deal I believe it's Brandon Deal. Maybe not. Let me fact check myself here in a little bit. But it will get to your regional organizer. That regional organizer, if we have a state director in place already, we'll be able to reach out with them, and we will be able to get in contact, get started, get a plan rolling, and do all the things that are necessary to help support and make things make a difference.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna have to check out the website a little more and delve deep. Because, like I said, with the way with the way this organization approaches things, it like again, it reminds me of like a good grassroots organization where there's like you talked about the passion, uh,
Hmm.
and and honestly, it takes a little intestinal fortitude, especially if you're the one going in front of city councils or you're going in front of these, either they're elected or unelected bureaucrats and trying to talk sense to them, but that having the mindset and the skills to talk to them in a way that's respectful. But then, as you stated earlier, uh, having them see the situation through affected persons'
Yeah.
eyes, through their eyes, and that's something that I find fascinating and so on. All right, for those of you in the KEYK audience, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you'll be sure to check out youarethepower.net. Check out, see what they've got going on, and educate yourself on some of the things that they've been tackling. Next week, I don't have a guest, but I am going to cover what the CIA agent said, and we're gonna delve some more into the drug war, and specifically probably really get into the Iran-Contra scandal during the Reagan administration years and dig into this, because I've talked about it a little bit, but not at length as much as I'd like to. So take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week here on the Missouri Liberty Report. All right, carrying on. There's I had a thought, and now, of course, with my old man brain, it has fled. It has flown away. Oh man, I hate when I do this. I keep telling myself that I maybe I should change the day that I do this show from a Friday to a Monday, because by the end of the work week, mentally
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm running on fumes. I had a nice cup of coffee and it perked me up, but it hasn't kicked all the cylinders in my brain in yet.
The struggles of like the end of the work week or like the beginning where it's always a Monday, like where's the best time? I always found that to be a struggle.
But oh man, I don't know, Jason. I know as soon as we start talking about something else, it'll fire back up. So is there another instance or something big that you've worked on that you feel like is one of the more major issues that you've dealt with here in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so we work on a wide gambit of issues. One of the ones that we've had a little bit of fun with is, and I say fun, is eminent domain, and that's one is of course that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts. And so being able to work and being able to challenge a city council, a county council, and being like, hey, don't take somebody's livelihood, don't take away somebody's bar, don't take away somebody's hotel, whatever it is. Let's not just take people's stuff and then give them pennies on a dollar. Those ones are always fun to be a part of. We've worked on, there's another story in Gastonia, North Carolina, next to Pastor Moses. There was a man named Joshua Rohrer. He was a United States Army veteran with a service dog, Sunshine. And he was walking around on the street, and he was loved and adored by the community so much that people would literally drive up and be like, hey, man, here's some money, here's some food. So he's just walking on the street, and people are willing to and know him and respect him and value him enough that they're willing to give him a little bit of money. So the police were like, whoa, that's not in my neighborhood. You're not going to get away with those taxes effectively. And so they, because he wasn't paying taxes or whatever, they accused him of panhandling. And so when they were trying to detain him, his dog Sunshine, who was sitting there and was just trying to listen to her owner, wasn't threatening, wasn't barking, wasn't snarling, wasn't trying to bite anybody. They decided to tase the dog. So Sunshine got tased and ran away, and ultimately, as a result of this, while he was being detained and incarcerated for a short period of time, his dog was killed. So you had somebody who was just living his life peacefully, where he's getting aggressed upon by the state. So that was very early on in our time as an organization. Spike Cohen was going out there plenty of times, and as a result of that, yes, Joshua Rohr is still facing some problems from the city. I think that's kind of ingrained in there, but we've been able to, some of the local police, the Gastonia Police Department, some of their social media directors have been fired for defamation, for lying, and for otherwise using the official Facebook and other social media platforms. So we're out here holding people accountable and changing things up. We also have another huge story in Mississippi. Young man, 25-year-old Rasheem Carter, just was working down there trying to save up money after COVID had closed down his shrimp restaurant, was working diligently, trying to get back on his feet, trying to get his restaurant open so he could provide for him and his daughter and restore his life. And after working for a little while, he goes missing. And the family immediately reports him as missing. He had made the accusation that people were chasing him, and that he was fearful for his life. His body was found 30 days later in the woods, and the police immediately come out and say no foul play. So this one's a little bit unorthodox for us. This is a first time deal, but You Are the Power doesn't think that seeing somebody's dead body out in the middle of the woods with no rhyme or reason as to why they were there says no foul play is really a justifiable answer. So we have been working to help and bring about justice for Rasheem Carter, to find out the truth of what happened in his final days. And I believe in the next couple months or so, we should be able to have some answers coming out from that. We have a $50,000 reward for the information that leads to justice for Rasheem Carter. And so we've, when I say like there's nothing out there that we're not really interested in helping restore respect and get people what they deserve, we're out here and we're willing to do it all. And thankfully and gratefully, we have an incredible network of people that have experiences in all these different walks of life, and we're able to work together as a community within our network to be able to tackle some of the biggest issues and to be able to bring back respect and start the healing process for some of these communities and some of these people. So it's mind-blowing what we've been able to accomplish in this short time, and I'm this is just the beginning of 2024. I can't wait to see what I'm talking about 2025.
Listen, man, when you start talking about people tasing dogs, I get all kinds of fired up because I have 3 myself, and the thought of someone tasing my dog or shooting it, just when it's not doing anything wrong, so you're gonna have to arrest me because I'm gonna throw hands. I could not. I don't know how people just stay. I mean, that guy's probably freaking out. Like, why am I being arrested? What the heck's going on? What are we doing here?
Yeah,
and then
he was asking for help, and he was begging for help, and he was just like, "Why are you doing this to me? Leave me alone. I'm not doing anything. Help me, help me, help me." And this is all caught on body cam footage, and they refused to release it for the longest time. And it took us going to city council, to city council, to city council, and finally demanding it. And they finally did release it. And it turns out that the officer who was the one who tased it, his father was the one doing the investigation on the whole entire situation. So it's like, are we supposed to trust this and expect that this is truly, the government investigated the government found no wrongdoing? Like, of course this is what we expect.
Yeah, you're not. If the government investigates itself, the outcome is not going to be the one you want. they might find a patsy to throw under the bus, but everybody else is going to get off scot free. I mean, that's the way. That's their operating. Or
Yep.
the way they operate. Okay, so another question.
Mhm.
Let's say somebody wants to volunteer for the organization, but let's say they just say, I don't want to go to city council meetings, but I'll make phone calls, I'll write emails, I'll send faxes, whatever. I mean, I'm guessing that you guys will take any help that you can get as long as there's an understanding of how they should operate when doing these things.
Definitely. So for us, the best way to do that is, again, sign up youarethepower.net/member. Sign up for the free membership if you'd like. And from there, get in contact, and we'll get you in contact with your regional organizer. If you have a state director in your state already, we're still working to fill out every state and every chapter that we can. We'll get you in touch, and if there's causes that you're interested in, if you're just, your bread and butter is working on, you want to reunite every family that we can work to help reunite, that's gone through the vetting process. If that's your thing, I'm more than happy to bring you in on all these causes. We have internal Facebook groups, we have regional Facebook groups, we have the nationwide Facebook group, where we're talking about all these causes. And so if there's something you're interested in, we're more than happy to keep giving people opportunities. We want you to be able to, I might be aging myself for some, but it's the goosebump of choose your own journey. However you want to help, we're more than grateful, because at the end of the day, we're volunteering ourselves to be able to, to help and support these families in any way and every way that we can. And so, if you want to do nothing more than be a door greeter at our events when we have the in-person events, I love to see you there. I love to see you with a smile on your face and fulfilling whatever it is that brings you joy. You want to write letters, you want to help with social media posting, you want to, whatever it is that you want to do, we're more than happy to take on volunteers for anything and everything that you guys are interested in. And, so in your state, in your region, we'll be happy to get you in contact and keep you up to speed on everything that we've got going on, so that we can continue to have the incredible successes that we have had.
So, like, let's say you've got a group here in Missouri now. Would each state have like like a public setting where people can come in? Do they do that in each state, or is it broke down by regions, or how do they do that?
So right now, we don't have any physical locations at this time.
Okay.
What we're working through is we're working to get all of the different regions filled out, all of the different states filled out, and what's going to be interesting is that we're going to allow for really the market to determine how these things get structured. And so, yes, we have our philosophy, we have our principles, we have our passions, and we have like our core values entrenched in that. But if something is going to work for one community, for one state, for one city, for one county, that may not work for your neighbor. And so we're going to allow for some of those adaptations to happen as they see best. And in time, I'm sure, as we continue to grow, like I said, we're in the first 2 years, so we've got a lot of growing still left to do. But I mean, we're filling our shoes quite quickly. It'll be incredible to see if we can have a You Are the Power chapter, 3 different chapters across Missouri, northern, southern, and central, or however that it gets broken up. But at this time, it's just not something that we have.
Okay, I just that way people know what to look for. I have to ask, because you said this has been going on for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like a lot of other folks out there, I'm still really ticked off about the COVID madness, the lockdowns, the shutdowns. Did you guys work on some of that in your inception?
No, so we started off in I believe it was May of 22 was
Okay.
when we had our official public breakout. But that was not something, and I don't even know. I think generally, we would be opposed to it overall. I don't know how we would be trying to tackle that, because usually those things were being pushed down by the state level. But it could be. So here's another good little tidbit for how some of these things, how we get the success that we do. If we're trying to approach this by looking at the entire country or the entire county and saying all of these people are being infringed upon, it's a little bit more difficult to get those officials who are involved with it to be able to see it from their shoes, to walk a mile in their shoes. If we have a story of a family, of an individual, and we're able to put them in that person's shoes, we have a much higher chance of being able to make that empathetic connection. And then that is in what turns be able to make those changes. So trying to keep it as local as possible on those things is how we've been able to make these successes. But it's not something that, even if it's not something that we work on as an organization, as You Are the Power, it doesn't mean that our principles and our practices can't be used by others on those things in order to make those great strides and great successes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure of the time frame there. Because I tell you what, if that was something you guys worked on, a lot of people, or if this group, this organization inception had been 2020, you guys probably would have been bombarded. It just because, like in Missouri here, most cities were like, okay, but we had St. Louis, we had Kansas City, Columbia, I believe Springfield, the bigger localities, the more metropolitan areas. St. Louis was horrible, and the dictator Sam Page there in St. Louis was horrible. I'm thinking, boy, an organization like this could have really helped. I mean, we had people just blowing up social media and everything. Just people in general were like, okay, this guy has got to go, and he wins his reelection, and then you're left scratching your head like, how did he get reelected again? Why did he get reelected? So, well, Jason,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead with your thought, because I lost my train of thought again.
Sorry about that. No, I was just gonna say, like, this is just one of those things that, like, we all had such different lived experiences through that, because I remember it was the Rolling Stones magazine actually listed my city here in South Carolina as having one of the lowest restrictions on COVID, while also simultaneously having the least amount of people following those low restrictions. And so it was, for me, in my experience, and I know, like, I was actively watching Spike on the campaign trail at this time, and I was covering that through my own media sources and everything else. But I got to see, like, just the devastation that was happening, and it churned me, just watching how, watching Governor Whitmore from Michigan, and the tyranny that was just downpouring onto those people. That it's definitely something that, we would have felt compelled to do, but at the same time, I'm me personally at that time, I was flagrant with my disrespect, if you will, of these government officials and the way that they were acting it. But I think it would have been I think it would have been interesting to see how You Are the Power would have handled that in that time.
Yeah, that would have taken up a lot of resources, honestly. I mean, that would have been a real burden, because that was for the most part, that was nationwide. And as a group starting out, I mean, you would have had your hands really full on that one.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Well, Jason, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining me. I love what I've heard. I know my listeners also definitely love what they'd heard from you tonight and about the organization. I hope some people definitely visit the site. Maybe we get some volunteers here in Missouri to help out. Just feel free to text me with Jennifer Williams information, and feel free to ask her if she'd be interested in coming on with me and going through this whole Hernandez family ordeal, because I feel like, getting all that information out and then linking that to what you guys have been doing could definitely help out your group. And I remember one of my lost trains of thought from earlier. When you were talking about, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and generally they're political. This show is basically politics, government things. But what you said something, or what you said earlier, struck me, and it's really true. We listen to the media, we get certain things shoved in our face 24/7. This is what we want you to pay attention to. It makes it really hard for organizations like yourself to be out there in the limelight and go, listen, we have a lot of negativity. We got all these things that government does, but look at all these people that that are coming together to fight for a common cause. Don't lose hope.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an incredible feeling, because it's at the end of the day, you know, I know I've worked with people that are very staunch Democrats that hate libertarians and hate Republicans. I've worked with Republicans that hate with Democrats and hate libertarians. I've worked with libertarians that hate Republicans and hate Democrats. I've worked with people that just hate people for their different political ideologies. But then when we're all working together, just to watch them go, it doesn't matter. Does it really matter what we view as the social welfare state? Or does it really matter about what our thoughts are on the immigration policy or the abortion issue or guns or school or any of these things? If we're here just to say it shouldn't be a problem for people to feed people, and to watch people feel empowered, and then to watch one of them to step up to the microphone and say, Mr. Mayor, stop harassing us. And then watch the next one go, yeah, hey, stop harassing us. And then the third one says, all three of us, stop harassing us. And now they're unified. And you're watching people just shed away their differences to work together. It is the most invigorating thing that you can be a part of. And it's just so refreshing. It's so incredible. We really aren't as divided as what the media has put us out to be. But as long as we're going to keep letting them drive those wedges, we're not going to be able to achieve the greatness that we were destined to be.
Absolutely. Jason, again, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck in your endeavor here. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Spike Cohen, and I'm definitely a Jason Lyon fan now, because you're I got to give it to you, brother. You make a great pitch. You guys are doing great things, and I absolutely love what I heard tonight. So, if there's any other time you want to come on, if there's some issues that arise that you guys are fighting, reach out to me. I'd love to have you back on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate it, John, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved every second of this tonight. And absolutely, man, I'll reach out. I'll try to get you in touch with Jennifer and see if she can come on to talk about the Hernandez case. In the meantime, if you don't mind, I'm going to plug it one more time. youarethepower.net/Hernandez. You can read the story there, find out ways you can start supporting that family now. And then on top of that, absolutely, as more stories come out, especially if they come out in Missouri, you're going to be on top of the list to reach out to. And I would love to be able to work with you and help spread these messages so that we can start tearing down these barriers in front of our communities together.
Absolutely, brother. Well, have a great weekend, man. Enjoy that warmer weather than what we're experiencing here. And I mean, feel free to rub it in if you have to. It's great. I wish that we weren't going to be hitting negative numbers in the next couple of evenings. So
yeah. It was like 40 degrees earlier, man. I was like really cold, and so it's just a struggle sometimes. Some of us got to live through the cold.
All right. Well, take care of yourself, man. Again, good to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thanks so much again, John. I appreciate it. You have a great night.
You too. Thanks a lot. All right, everybody. That was Jason Lyon with "You Are the Power," and what an inspirational, what an inspirational thing to hear. I mean, again, we talk about the negativity that we hear in the media, and it's hard not to just let it wash over you and be entrenched in it all the time. And then to hear from a group like this that are out there doing absolutely great things, in local areas where, again, we talk about it, other people talk about it, doing things in the local area. Mike Charlie 14A says, who can we start looking at to replace the Rhino Luetkemeyer in the 3rd District, and who is able to primary against Graves in the Missouri 6th? That is a very good question. I think it's Mary Elizabeth Coleman. Looks like maybe she's preparing to run for that seat, and that would just be another rhino. That'll be a real challenge to find somebody to replace Luke DeMeyer who's worth a hoot. But that's just the way it is. Well, folks, I know I told you a couple weeks ago that I would be going to D.C. I would be leaving tomorrow. I was wrong. It's the 20th I leave. I still plan on, when I get back from my trip, I plan on just talking about my trip. If I get some really great photos, sharing those with you, and just talking about my experience in D.C. Again, next week I do not have a guest, but on February, let me make sure I have the date right, because I put it in my calendar because of old man brain. Yes, February the 2nd, I will be joined by none other than Tony Lavasco will be on, and we'll be talking about what's going on in the state legislature, maybe get his thoughts on some of the, maybe some legislation that he's working on as well. So got him scheduled for the 2nd of February. That'll be the first Friday, of course, in February. And then if I can get this Jennifer Williams on to talk about this horrific Hernandez family ordeal, definitely want to get her on as soon as I can to discuss that. And I will be looking for some even more new guests, some different guests to have on the show. Going to be actively searching for some of those folks as well. But I really, really, really enjoy. I really enjoyed this conversation with Jason Lyon tonight. This was I had a blast. Wilderness Gal says, when are you going to Jefferson City? I don't know, Maya. I really don't know, because I really want to pick a day to go to the Capitol to work a bill. The way the weather's been and the way they're talking about January could be above average precip, I'm trying to hold on to personal days. I'm trying not to spend vacation days really too much, because I got a granddaughter due in April, so I'm trying to hold on to all these days as long as I possibly can. I am hoping to make it up one day. And Maya, I have not done any photography lately. I got told about a new place called Swan Lake Refuge, which is north of Columbia. And apparently there's all kinds of wildlife there. So something for me to check out when the weather warms up. And I did have someone contact me about a wedding shoot. And if I get that done, which will be in August, but that money is probably going to go to a nice big telephoto lens that I can use for wildlife. And so I don't have to sneak up on things. I can stand farther away and get the shots that I want. All right, folks, with that being said, thanks so much again for tuning in this week to the Missouri Liberty Report. To all of those of you on YouTube and in Rumble, I appreciate you all very much. I appreciate your continued support. Appreciate all the lively banter and the live chats. Again, you guys are awesome, and I thank you for joining me every week. Again, next week, no guest planned unless there's a surprise thing happens. Maybe I find somebody to come on and join me. If not, we'll be talking about, I'll play a little bit of audio clip from this CIA schmuck, and we're going to delve more into the war on drugs, and then maybe I'm going to tear into this bill from the supposed Freedom Caucus member, who seems like, from what I've been able to read of this bill of his, anything that has Delta 8 will now be considered marijuana, which means they'll force it into dispensaries and hurt a lot of small businesses, so on and so forth. We'll maybe tear apart that bill and discuss it and my disagreements with it. Because I think if you're in the Freedom Caucus, you should not be writing more regulations when we have an amendment in the Constitution, which is limiting the people already. That's just my humble opinion. All right, folks, but again, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for being here with me, and we'll see you all next week.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, guys. Thanks again so much for being here with me. And again, I greatly appreciate all the support that you do give me. And I really enjoyed the guest tonight. Such an upbeat guy, upstanding person, and out there doing good things, just like some of our grassroots organizations here in the state. But they're preaching local, local, local. And I think that's something that we can all get behind. So I'm definitely going to investigate the site more and check in to see some of the things they're doing. And hopefully I can get this Jennifer Williams on with me to discuss this horrible thing that's going on with the Hernandez family. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition. And have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. I hope everybody survives this horrible cold that we got coming in. My wife and I's anniversary is tomorrow, so we're probably just going to hang out at home and stay out of the cold. We might go out to eat, and that's going to be about it. But yeah, and Jason's in the live chat here. Jason, thanks so much for joining me tonight, brother. I really appreciate you and what you and the organization is doing. All right, folks, so that's going to do it for this week. Again, peace to all of you, and let's keep fighting to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. We'll see you all later. Take care.